First, we must understand that neutrality is a myth. Neutrality is a myth, including technology and tools. AI doesn't think, right? So back to a prior point, this is not AGI. It's not conscious. It's not sentient. And so what I'm saying is this is not a machine's thoughts. This is a machine searching and predicting. Searching what? Not searching machine thoughts, but searching human thoughts, the thoughts of men. Primarily, the collective thoughts on the internet. And not just that, but searching these thoughts, but with certain rules by its designers baked into the equation, certain, we might call them presuppositions, right? I'm Van Tillian, right? So I'm Cornelius Van Til, and Cornelius Van Til, I think, culminated in the implications of his presuppositional theology was really actualized by Greg Bahnsen. I think he took the principles of Van Til and applied them in the realm of apologetics and in the realm of general equity theonomy. Now, all that being said, as a presuppositionalist, nothing is neutral. Everything has an allegiance. And AI is a man-made thing. It doesn't have personhood, nor will it ever. It doesn't have consciousness, nor will it ever. It'll get smarter and smarter as a computer, and look more and more human-like, but it will never actually think. It will never actually be sentient. It will only ever be searching and predicting, producing. And it's going to be searching man's thoughts. Everything publicly available. It's going to be searching all the way, not just men today, but throughout the course of history. Anything that's been made public. It's going to be searching Beowulf because that's on the internet. It's going to be searching the writings of Homer and the Iliad and Homer's Odyssey and all the. It's going to be searching from Homer all the way to, all the way to Klaus Schwab. It's all those things, and not just searching. So I don't just think AI is going to have a bias because it's going to just be searching the collective works of humanity, and humanity up to this point, for the record, if I haven't made this clear, as a postmillennial, I believe the majority of mankind will be saved. I believe that heaven will be more populated than hell. However, I don't believe that we're there right now. If human history were hypothetically to end right now, I believe that hell is currently far more populated than heaven. I believe that the gospel will be progressively more and more successful, that the church will be progressively, the church is the battering ram of Christ. Christ promised not just to sustain it, but to build it, increase it, expand it, and that the gates of hell, gates being a defensive mechanism, hell is not on the offense and the church is just trying to survive and being sustained by Christ. No, the church is the battering ram of Christ. He's the head of the church. The church is his body, his hands and feet in the world, and he is using the church as his battering ram to break down the defensive measures of hell. The church will not just be sustained, it will be built, it will increase, it will grow, and hell is on the defense, and hell won't be sustained. Hell will not be able to prevail or to hold up underneath the battering ram of the church. So all that being said, I believe that the gospel will be successful, the Great Commission will be successful, and that progressively over time, as the mustard seed grows progressively more and more into a tree that covers the earth, as the leaven works more and more through the whole batch of dough until the whole dough is leavened, that by the end, you're going to have substantially, even then, not universalism, not each and every individual person, but by the end, you're going to have the mass majority of humanity Christian. And not just Christianized with a Christian worldview and Christian governments and Christian nations, but I mean Christian in the sense of individual regenerate hearts, truly born again. And not each and every individual person, but the majority of individual persons, the vast majority. So I believe that by the end, you're going to have more Christians than non-Christians, and you couple that, just simple math here, with us being fruitful and multiplying, right? The population of mankind has exponentially, right? Like an exponential curve, has increased with time, with each century that goes by. And so I believe that at the end of this church age that we're currently living in, or gospel age, you could call it, when Christ in his final physical return to judge the living and the dead, when Christ finally returns, you're going to have The overall population of humanity, far more of them being Christians, actually regenerate Christians than non-Christians, and that population being exponentially higher than the population today. So if the clock of human history stopped today, I would argue that there's probably 100 times, not just 10 times, 100 times, maybe even 1,000 times more people in hell than heaven. But the clock isn't stopping today, at least it hasn't so far. No man knows the day or the hour, but I don't think it's going to stop today. And if Jesus tarries for another 10,000 years, and more that the tide begins to turn, and all of a sudden you have 51% of the population that's regenerate, and 49 that's not, and then that increases, and you have a higher and higher percentage of the population that is Christian, and you have a larger, just generally larger population exponentially throughout generation by generation, century by century, then in the final analysis, there'll be more people in heaven than in hell. All that back to my point. Although I do believe in the final analysis, there'll be more people in hell. Hell will be more people in heaven, that heaven will be more populated than hell. At the end, I believe that currently we have more people who have an allegiance to Satan, right? Nobody's neutral. Romans 8 says that the mind of the sinful man is hostile, not just indifferent, not neutral, not uninterested, but hostile, at enmity towards God's law. The mind of the sinful man is hostile towards God's law. He does not submit to God's law, nor can he. He doesn't submit to God's law, nor can he, meaning he's unwilling and unable. And so if the majority of people are sinful and not redeemed, not regenerate, and if that's what we have so far throughout human history, is the vast majority of mankind up to this point in human history being unregenerate, and those who are unregenerate aren't just neutral or indifferent, but actually at enmity towards God, and everything they do with a presupposition. So everything they've produced, everything that they've written, everything that they've said has a presupposition. Christ said, a man is either for me or against me. Everyone has an allegiance. If all that is true, this Van Tillian, Greg Bonson, presuppositional, all these things are true. If this is true, then what is this narrow AI searching? Well, it's searching the collective works of man that have been created thus far, up to this present day, which I would argue that there's a lot of good Christian works in there. We got 1,000 years of Christendom from King Alfred all the way to right now within Western civilization, and a lot of good things that came out of that. Guys who weren't they themselves Christian, but they were living in a Christian culture and a Christian time, a baptized nation, as it were. And so even for the unregenerate, they were producing better things than people do today. And now that we're in the midst of 300 years of apostasy, give or take, 275 years of apostasy. All that being said, my point is, even with Christendom and even with some good works, I think that the lion's share, the majority report of what AI is searching today is going to be unregenerate, God-hating garbage. So that's just what it can search, what's available. It doesn't think, it's not sharing its own thoughts, it's searching the thoughts of men. And I think predominantly the thoughts of men have been bad thus far. Now, the second thing is, even if that wasn't true, even if point A was wrong, point B is who is responsible for making AI? Who's behind ChatGPT? Who's behind Dolly and Jasper and all these different things? Predominantly, the people who are behind it are God-hating people with an atheistic, God-hating worldview, a progressive, atheistic, satanic, demonic worldview, and nothing is neutral. So they have built into the fabric of these search engines, which that's all it is at the end of the day, they've built into these tools a presupposition to not be truthful about certain things. And as they're finding, we missed a spot there. We missed, I read that, people were asking ChatGPT about, the energy crisis and what's the solution, and all the answers that it was giving, searching just all the data that's available, the solution is really simple. It's fossil fuels. And then, the people behind this device, we're like, oh no, we forgot to cover that hole, right? ChatGPT is telling the truth. We need to make sure that it lies, right? Because of course that's the obvious answer, and that's the right answer. But we forgot to disciple ChatGPT. It needs to be discipled, right? You've probably heard the one of the big examples was, write a poem about the positive characteristics of Joe Biden, and so ChatGPT wrote a poem extolling, the virtues of Joe Biden. And then the same question, exactly the same wording was, write a poem expressing the positive attributes of Donald Trump. And it said, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I can't do something that would be overly controversial and and then since then I've seen that people have gotten it to do that, which I have no doubt that the answer is that the people behind the scenes have gone, oh, we're getting found out so we need to make it a little bit more subtle, not quite so obvious that there's a presupposition. But then on the fossil fuel example, we don't want it to be obvious that we have a presupposition here, but at the same time, we can't afford, for people to get wise and realize that, that we don't have to have some of these economic crises because we need, right? Never let a good crisis go to waste. We need it. So my point is there's a bias, there's an allegiance, there's an agenda, because it's not sentient, it's not conscious. It is powered by and geared by men, So what is the Christian reaction? The Christian response? Well, one, I don't think that we should be fearful. I think that we should be suspicious, have a holy, hopeful suspicion. We should be wise, right? Cunning as serpents, innocent as doves, cunning as serpents. But we shouldn't be given to fear. We shouldn't be fearful. I think we should engage. I think Christians should be willing to use narrow AI and some of these technologies that are being made available, and they need to use them in ethical ways, not ways that are just theft, plagiarism, right? So I could do a whole nother episode, and I probably will sometime, about ethical ways to use something like ChatGPT, right? That you're not just stealing what other people have written and then putting it in not your own words, but the technology's own words, but it's not actually, any of it is not actually your thoughts. So I think Christians should embrace this technology, but we should do it with suspicion. We should also do it with clear ethical boundaries and guidelines. But more importantly than even that, I think that should be the general Christian approach. But for those Christians who have unique, special skills, what they need to do is not just use the technology that's already available, but they need to build that technology.